UFC 287 main card opener. We have the Phenom. He's 18. It's Raul Rosas Jr. El Nino Problema. He's going to be taking on CeeRod, Christian Rodriguez. And Christian Rodriguez, if you follow Duke Rufus over on Facebook or Instagram, he's been talking about Christian Rodriguez for years, and not just him, but everybody that trains out of that gym. Paul Felder, Gerald Meerschaert, the Pettis brothers, they've always been pumping up Rodriguez. Oh, yeah. He came into the UFC on days' notice and up a weight class against Jonathan Pierce. Wasn't able to get the win. Had some competitive moments in that fight, but Jonathan Pierce, he's fighting at UFC 288 on the main card against Bryce Mitchell. He's kind of a good fighter as JSP. And for Rodriguez, he loses that fight, uproots it to fight ready to train with JSP, to then go out there and beat Joshua Weems, who came in on really, really short notice. Rodriguez got a performance bonus last time out, and I've never seen somebody so unenthused about winning their UFC debut and getting a submission win in the first round. So great one for Rodriguez. He got taken down a couple of times by Weems, but in that one, we know how good Rodriguez's jiu-jitsu is, but that's not even the A side of his game. His boxing is so good, mixing it head to body with the kicks. He cuts the cage. For a now 25-year-old, Rodriguez looks like a guy that grew up in an MMA gym when he was 14 years old, as he did, and I'll throw the Duke Rufus post up there. But Rodriguez is where Raul Rosas Jr. could be, even though the hype is with Rosas, and Rosas has 2 less fights as a pro. But when you look at all of this, Matt, Rosas Jr., his Dana White's Contender Series fight against Mondo Gutierrez, he wins that one by decision. Mondo was cool with pulling guillotine, and then Rosas was able to pull away. That was the first time that we got to see Rosas out of the first round into some deeper waters. And the best part of it for Rosas that almost lends credibility to that win, Mondo was, again, toughest fight that he ever had. But Mondo, I say tough. He's not tough with Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor. So that lends credence to that one. Rosas' last time out took on the former CS man, Jay Perrin. A lot of bad blood in the interviews leading up to that one. Rosas able to get the fight down to the mat, get the finish pretty quickly. Looked really good in that one. But if you look at the Contender Series fight on the UFC's YouTube page, that fight has 4 million views. It was reposted on the ESPN MMA page. 1 million views of that fight against Mondo Gutierrez. So 5 in total. Raul's definitely doing something right. The fight that he had against Jay Perrin into the hundreds of thousands of views of the fight and the interviews and everything leading up to it. He has a lot of hype behind him. But why not when you watch some of these performances with the wrestling?
He's 18, he's really good. And that's the thing about Raul Rosas Jr. He has shown those capabilities once he is able to get the fight to where he does excel at. That definitely is the mat. I love the jiu-jitsu game, and the Perrin fight really did prove a lot to a lot of people, I think, because there were definitely reasonable question marks leading into his UFC debut. But after that, to see him kind of deal with, and I know this is a bit of an outdated term, people don't use it, but to deal with like real man strength, you know, like he is only 18 years old. So the fact that he is fighting people who are not only older than him, but could arguably be their dad, like it is kind of wild. So for Rojas, I was very surprised to see the success he was able to have on the mat after he got it there, because I was a little bit concerned about his physicality when he was.
Hold on, if like Jay Perrin's like 30, so he would have been.
No, I understand.
Like
I'm just saying, like a guy who is. It's not a. You said Gerald Meerschaert's Chris Paul, Craig. You can let something go.
Slows the game down.
Chris Paul's one of the greatest of all time. Rosas Jr., though, at least those skills that he did have coming into the UFC, he's continued to work on it and been able to show at the UFC level, because that's what always concerns me. When you have a guy who is a great striker outside of the UFC, then they show up in their first fight, they're getting outstruck and going for panic takedowns. You hate to see that. But for Rosas, he has been very much the same fighter he was on the regional scene, and he's a big fighter for the weight class, too. I know I brought this up a lot in his debut, but Rosas Jr., I'll be interested to see if he sticks in the bantamweight division, or if just during time or after time he is forced to move up to featherweight, because he is very, very big.
Rosas Jr.'s had featherweight fights. Christian Rodriguez kind of bounced around between weight classes. He missed weight on Dana White's Contender Series when he did win. Weighed in at 138 in that episode. Didn't get the contract, but then you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth, because Jake Hadley missed weight on that episode, but they signed him, but they said Rodriguez needed more seasoning. Rodriguez's last time out made the weight at bantamweight, but Weems came in at 139.5. Now, Weems was in on 4 days' notice, and Rodriguez at 145. And his UFC debut was on 6 days' notice against Jonathan Pierce. So when you look at the matchup, Matt, I don't think it's crazy to say Christian Rodriguez is a much more complete mixed martial arts.
For sure.
His kicking game, his boxing, he mixes it up to the body, to the head. He cuts the cage. He can definitely kind of pose striking issues for Rosas. And even if Rodriguez gets taken down, I've seen him pop back up to his feet. He's cool as a cucumber, and he doesn't leave himself defensively liable in a lot of those positions. Rosas, I've seen him kind of duck his head back because he is a bigger, taller guy in this weight class. Yeah. He's added more kicks to his game. You saw that in his fight against Jay Perrin. I was trying to find recent interviews of Raul Rosas Jr., kind of getting ready for this one, and I found one that he did on the Evolve Your Game podcast back on February the 18th with his 20-year-old brother who's 3-0 in MMA, Jesse Rosas, and he asks in the interview Mr. Abraham Ayala the most 18-year-old question I've ever heard a person ask somebody. Matt, are you ready for this? I prefaced it by saying you're going to laugh out loud, so if you don't, I didn't deliver. Raul says, and I quote, "I have a question for you, Abe. You have a wife and a kid. Because I see a lot of people that have a wife, or like a girl, and they get distracted from the game, So how do you do it to stay on your I
mean, listen, I don't even know how to respond to
that. Is that the most 18-year-old question? How do you do it, Matt? With a wife and a kid? How do you function? Matt,
I almost said something terrible right there.
Raul Rosas Jr. has a good opportunity in this matchup against Christian Rodriguez.
I know Raul Rosas Jr.'s brother was like, these hoes ain't loyal on a podcast.
No, he asked the buddy, not the brother. But when you look at it, I mean, Rosas Jr. is the favorite, and perennially he has been. You have a look at the fan vote on this one, and I bet everybody's sleeping on Christian Rodriguez. I'm going to say the over-under. I'm going to set it at 85% Rosas Jr.
I'll say under.
You're going to say under? It's over, so slightly. 1,848 total votes, 88% Rosas Jr., 66% by submission for the 12% that have Rodriguez, 58% by decision. And Rodriguez, for what it's worth, he's competed with Bellator, CFFC, LFA, Contender Series, UFC, brought up the right way, had an amateur career that was fairly extensive, as did Rosas Jr. One of them's on UFC 4. One of them's rated a 4-star. So he's a 4-star grappling, 3.5-star striking.
Everybody's a
4-star health. Darren Till is rated a 4-star on that game.
Everybody. No. But if you played the game, everybody is rated a 4-star. Then John Vellante and Sam Alvey, who are 3s.
What about Chick Magnet Punk?
He's not even in it.
All right.
I think he's like a 2.5. My point is, unless you're not in the UFC or not very good, everybody's a 4-star, so don't look into that at all.
What's the pick?
I have Raul Rosas Jr. because I think he'll get the fight to the mat at some point. I think Rodriguez can offer him a lot of complications on the feet for as long as it stays there. I still think Rodriguez can keep this fight on the feet for 15 minutes, and for those reasons, I have Rosas Jr. I also come on this channel all the time and say, hey, the UFC might try to say, we're not like boxing, and Dana White's going to fix boxing, blah, 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 blah. There are a lot more like boxing entities than I think we do realize, and they want to push their A-side. The A-side's Rosas Jr.
I'll go with Rosas Jr. in the matchup. I think he's just a little bit stickier with that grappling, and if he's going out there getting those takedowns, the singles, the doubles, he's forcing the action. The thing that I like out of Rosas Jr. that was a huge question mark coming on to Contender Series is, does he have a 3-round gas tank? You might go, well, at the time he's 17. Of course he has a good gas tank. Think of yourself in high school. If you're just pounding hot dogs and drinking Pepsi, do you think he had really good gas? No. But Rosas Jr. is able to show in that matchup.
I don't think you were in the UFC when you were 18.
That he's able to get it done. So I did like that of Rosas Jr. And I think the wrestling can carry him to a win in this one. But if Rodriguez was able to get the win in it, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me as it would have Jay Perrin was able to do it. So Matt, both of us in the matchup going with El Nino Problema to get the win. And then we move the chains. The main event, Adesanya, he's going to look to challenge. That might come as a surprise. Taking on Mr. Alex Pereira. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.